Hello, everyone. You're listening to, by popular demand, the Spodcast.
We need a new name.
Is definitely my favorite of those names that was suggested.
You know that if we hold a contest, Spodcast is going to win again somehow,
yeah, it's like
right?
we can't just... We could like even say, no, you're not allowed to make it Spodcast, and then they just make it Spodcast anyway.
Well, let's just say we're open for suggestions for alternative names.
I kind of just want to stylize it as, like, SPAWD cast. Like, just so it makes even less sense.
Yeah, but then you have to explain that it's kind of an acronym, but it's not really an acronym.
I mean, the only other thing that got even close to the same level of interest as our podcast name is just name it Star Trek. Which, again, I don't think is viable.
I mean, Viacom's kind of
situation there.
They take down a lot of stuff.
What if we do like Trek, so it's a subtitle? Then it's fine, right?
I don't think that's how copyright law works, or trademark law, or the internet.
Well, we'll just create a new thing called copy:(right law), and then copy:(right law) our new title, and that'll work, right? Is that how it works?
That's not. No, there's.
I got an idea.
What's your idea?
I got an idea.
Okay.
Poop emoji, eggplant emoji, cast, and that is the name of the show.
Oh, wow, we just got 200,000 views. It's not even up yet, and we already have 200,000 views. Look at that.
Okay, how do you pronounce several emojis like that in a way that doesn't take 45 seconds?
You just say it the way I said it.
That's way too long.
No, you say it the way you said it, but faster. You speed it up. Poop emoji, something, something, something.
Yeah, the poop emoji, something is a great name for the podcast.
Just cut off the emoji and just make it poop eggs. Don't even do the plant. Just poop eggs, and that's the podcast.
That egg is purple. That's weird. Poop aubergine. Aubergine. That works better if I actually know how to pronounce the other name of an eggplant, but apparently I've lost that knowledge somewhere around yesterday. Yeah, I'm Josh. With me here is Chris and Glitch. Rutskarn is off at some sort of family function, and Mumbles is still very busy with a lot of work and stuff related to her channel. So hopefully eventually she'll be back. Got some other house cleaning stuff to do. Like, people are asking, hey, is this just going to be on YouTube? And I addressed this a bit in the comments last time, but no, we are going to have a website to put this on. I haven't had the chance to work on that website at all yet, but we have the hosting for it. I was going to do some a week ago, but what happened was I ended up going on vacation, and I just kind of spent all of that vacation, and I didn't actually go anywhere, but I spent the vacation time that I had just sitting around, getting really fucking hammered, and finishing Prey. And then all of this week I've been kind of dealing with a mild cold, which maybe you can hear. And it turns out that being really drunk while playing Prey is a great way to experience the ending of that game, because the game goes places that I was much more okay with in the moment when I was drunk. No, we'll get to that.
Are we abruptly switching topics?
We'll get to that later, but lots of Prey talk on this podcast coming up. But right now, let's talk about some of the news that's happened over the past 2 weeks. Probably the biggest stuff has been the Destiny 2 reveal, which was a couple days back. It looks...
Is that a thing that people are really actually excited for?
Yeah.
Apparently. They did it in a great big huge theater, all E3 style. It looks a lot like Destiny 1, a lot like Destiny 1, to the extent that it almost looks like they just did Destiny 1 properly. also, it looks like they're kind of story-wise doing this something a bit more traditional, a bit more cinematic,
Yeah.
and it's a really weird thing to say, but that's kind of disappointing in its own way.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this on Twitter repeatedly, but I really am going to miss the way they fell ass backwards into a really unique, weird, half-broken tone. And I knew they had no interest in going back to it. Like, as soon as you started playing what it was, the last expansion, not Wrath of the Lich King, it was Taken King. That King. The Taken King expansion leans hard into having a more traditional, like, there are characters and they talk to you and there's a story arc and you're the hero and there's plucky, snarky one-liners and sort of wise old characters, and you've seen them sort of claw their way back to this with every expansion, and I think with Taken King they finally achieved something akin to like a traditional video game story.
Yeah. Yeah, like, there was something really interesting about what they accomplished with the initial... I say accomplish in air quotes with the initial Destiny story. Not at all in terms of story. Like, the Destiny 1 original story was literally just ad-libs with fantasy sci-fi terms. It was like literally... that wizard came from the moon. Like, that kind of obvious nonsense. It wasn't a situation where it made sense in the moment, and then you thought about it for 2 seconds and went like, oh, wait, what? It was literally just like, like, people are saying these words at me, but they don't make sense. They're not coming together in a way that form complete ideas. And that almost, like, looking back at it, kind of added to the sort of weird, mysterious, religious tone that the game had.
Yeah, definitely.
And I say religious tone because like it really does feel like you're talking to people who have a sort of religious conviction in the game. You're listening to people in dialogue that's got that sort of like not this fake movie religion, but like where the answer to like oh, it's light and dark, and you go like, okay, well, what's the light? And the answer is not some long-winded explanation of what the light is and what it means. It's the light. What do you mean? What is the light? It's the light. Like this whole conviction of like this is how the world works, and there's not even any room to question it because we didn't write a script for that. But it comes off as this sort of like very like crazy, weird, almost cultish interpretation of the universe that's very, very direct.
You still have, and part of that comes from the rewrite, right? Because it's clear that, and you can still see fragments of this in the original script. The Traveler turned out to be evil, and the obvious twist being obvious. The thing that you're fighting to protect is actually the thing that is the bad thing. The thing that provided that light was actually, turns out, the big bad. But that got scrapped or something. And the end narrative, that never happens.
It got nuclear optioned. They did a presentation like 9 months before the game came out with the writing team going like, okay, so here's our master cut of the story. And at some point shortly afterwards, the entire writing team got fired.
Which speaks to mismanagement at some level, just because how could you let them get that far with no oversight, no approval?
Yeah.
But if you hate it that much. But the end result is, by cutting it back to a very simple story of you are the good guys and you are the light and you are fighting the darkness and the darkness is evil, but there are still all these like weird throwaway lines and subtext that's kind of barely referenced that implies maybe you're not the good guys, but we never really talk about it. So it's like just there in the background, always in the back of your mind as you're playing, that like it presents this really rigid black and white morality, but also maybe it's not that simple, but also because of the way we're playing this game, we're not going to talk about that. And that made it kind of weird and cool and subversive, because it wasn't a game about moral choices or, good and evil, but it was about, playing this archetype of, being a good guy or a bad guy and fighting evil, but also maybe you're the bad guy. Like the fact that the classes are all named traditionally evil classes, for example. Like you can be Warlock or Titan or I can't remember the other one.
I think the evil connotation
thief.
of Titan has sort of gotten lost over the last 200 years of popular culture.
But still, like, you're not playing paladin and mercenary, I was going to say mercy, healer or whatever. You're playing traditionally bad guy
Definitely
roles.
not playing mercy, although maybe now.
Anna's way better in the current meta.
You don't even believe that.
Well, speaking of,
No, that's true. I like mercy a lot.
Speaking of, the big announcement was that they are having the PC release be hosted on Battle.net/Blizzard, whatever they're calling their current.
Yeah. So this game's finally getting a PC version now, which is interesting. Well, that was like something that was rumored
Destiny
a long time
2?
ago. Yeah. So if any of this fucking
there you go,
clusterfuck
Josh.
train wreck sounds interesting to you, Glitch.
Well, you're always like, come play it on the PS4 with me, but I don't have a PS4, so if you get it on the PC, I'll get it. We'll try it out, and I'll probably not hate it too much.
Well, there's some caveats.
I don't really like caviar.
Have you ever even had real caviar?
There's some caveats to the PC release. First of all, the PC release is apparently coming later, after the initial PS4 Xbox release, and it's not going to have dedicated servers. Which is going to be a problem on the
servers, like, so, it's like the issue there is obviously how bad is the cheating going to be.
It might not be terrible, given that it's going to be running on Battle.net, and banning people on Battle.net is pretty solid.
And honestly, like, that's not actually that big a deal to me. Like, I know dedicated servers is one of those things that, like, FOV sliders and dedicated servers, like, everybody on the PC gaming community really wants to have pretty much all the time. But, like, the game doesn't run on dedicated servers anywhere. It was always this peer-to-peer thing that they had, this really elaborate peer-to-peer thing that they've gotten set up on.
Peer-to-peer is fine. Peer-to-peer is fine until you go into PvP. If we were to get Destiny and play it together, and we were just doing the co-op stuff, I wouldn't care that it's peer-to-peer. Like, maybe there's some connection issues, whatever. But when it's, like, actual battling other people like in For Honor, I'm not messing with that. That's incidentally why I didn't get For Honor.
The PvP's always had that issue, and the way they tried to solve it was being super generous to the people who were lagging to a ridiculous degree, where people are basically walking around teleporting while invulnerable. It's always been a complaint of people that were more serious into it, that the people with the worst connections got the benefit of the doubt of all of the interactions, but yeah, that is a problem.
And like as far as like cheating goes, Destiny is not a particularly competitive game. The vast majority of the content in the game was PvE, so if you're running into a cheater doing cheaty stuff with Cheat Engine, and it turns out that Battle.net is not up to snuff to dealing with all that, like, you can just kind of most of the time not play with them. The PvP is an interesting point to bring up, because I'm honestly really skeptical of how that's going to work on the PC anyway. Like, part of the reason it worked so well on the PS4 and the Xbox One is that... Oh, and yeah, this game had a PS3 and Xbox 360 release, didn't it? I totally forgot about that. But the reason it worked so well on the consoles was that, like, there was this sort of inherent slowness and sluggishness to actually being able to aim at someone by just the way that the control scheme works, with a controller versus a mouse and keyboard, which is not at all to say that the game doesn't feel good. The game feels really fucking good with a controller. To the extent that I'm like, this PC release has been a sort of like, do I really want to get it on a PC? Like, it's so good with a controller, but like with PC mouse and keyboard controls, I wonder how much it's just going to be like sitting across the map from one another, shooting at each other with very accurate weapons.
We'll see. I mean, we don't even know how it's going to play. It could be a crappy port. No one will play it. We don't know. No one knows. I don't think it's going to be a crappy port because Blizzard's involved, but...
Yeah, sure. The thing
that really...
Confidence. that was not meant as a slight at Blizzard. But the thing that really actually surprised me was the other announcement that like it is coming later at some nebulously defined date, not on September 8th. And that was the thing that like I'm surprised by that, and also like actually super turned off by that because part of
What's
the fun
the
of Destiny
significance
1.
of that for people who might not know?
Well, I mean, it is kind of an MMO, and it's got this sort of like the game evolves over time kind of thing, and part of the fun of Destiny 1 was being there right at the beginning when everything was fucking busted, and trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And not just being able to go online and look up everything
Loot
that you
caves.
wanted. Yeah, exactly. The loot cave, yeah, you know.
Yeah, but so yeah, the areas change as time goes on, events happen, and if the PC is late at getting that, it might miss out on events, or it might be operating in a slightly delayed time schedule apart from the consoles, which means consoles will get all the cool new stuff, and then they'll get to explore it before the PC gamers even see it, or maybe they're just going to get it later because of, I mean, maybe it's an exclusivity thing. I don't know.
Yeah, or and also in that press conference, they explicitly talked up and said like, "Oh, Sony has been a great partner in all of this," which makes me go, "Oh, they're gonna do the fucking timed exclusivity bullshit where the PS4 had like strikes for a full year that were exclusive to the PS4 and that was not on the Xbox One version, which."
I mean, we were playing on PS4, so it didn't bug us,
yeah,
but it is kind of a crappy business process, or policy, or practice.
It definitely felt like a PS4 game at that point, just because, like, hey, you get some, you're getting 20% more content than the people on the Xbox One, so I don't know. I think that's about everything that we have to say about Destiny. The other thing that happened is Square Enix announced that they were going to part ways with IO Interactive.
This made me sad.
These are the guys who make Hitman, and they recently made the episodic new Hitman game that everybody was really skeptical about until it came out, and then it was awesome. And everybody really likes, but...
And then no one bought it.
I guess? I don't know. Do we have sales figures for it?
I mean, all we know is that according to the thing that was filed, Square Enix is writing down $47 million, which is a lot of money.
Yeah, part of that is like losses of investment into stuff that IO is doing now and hasn't come out, as I understand it.
Still, that I have to imagine it has to do with the performance of Hitman. Like
Square Enix has for a while been like this, especially with its non-Japanese assets.
They've been hemorrhaging money, and they don't know what to do because a lot of their Western games are underperforming. I mean, Deus Ex sort of struggled with its sequel. Tomb Raider didn't do good, but then that's entirely on them. That's the other thing, is they've been doing incredibly stupid stuff like Tomb Raider. The release of that was just tragically mishandled. Remember that?
It feels like that's Square Enix's problem is the way they release things. I mean, Hitman doesn't strike me as an episodic game.
It
actually worked.
And I don't know how much of that was Square Enix. Yeah, it may have worked, but like, how many people were turned off enough by that to not buy the game and never found out that it worked, you know?
The problem with their advertising was not selling people on the idea that an episodic game works. The problem was their advertising was, Hitman's back, and he's going back to his origin story, and the game is nothing about that or really like that at all. It is Hitman going back to his roots after Absolution, and that's the sad thing, is if this happened after Absolution, I would maybe not care so much that IO shut down, because Absolution is just the worst pile of crap in the world.
Is
but then
IO shutting down?
Okay, they're being sold. They're being sold.
Yeah, well,
or let go, however you phrase it.
The actual wording is, the company has regrettably decided to withdraw from the business of IO Interactive, a wholly owned subsidiary and Danish corporation as of March 31st, 2017. So this actually has already happened. and this is from the press release that Square Enix released May 11th. Like, that means, I guess, like, this is not a EA shutdown Origin and Maxis kind of situation. This is a, like, just jump and ship, and you guys, if you have money, can keep going, I guess. You're independent, you're free, but, we're not going to own you anymore, and not
we are no longer
financially responsible
checks.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's frustrating that it is frustrating, and it shows a I don't know how to phrase this, but, like, I don't know why you do this after perhaps the best game IO has ever made is released. It really shows a lack of understanding of how to make things that you can sell. That you don't drop them after Absolution, which was a shit show, but you keep them. But you do drop them as soon as they make
Absolution
their masterpiece.
Sell a bunch.
I can't.
I guess that's the question.
Maybe it sold enough to keep them around. I don't know. Maybe this was their last shot.
Did people have enough warning that game was a dumpster fire before it came out? Because I didn't. I got it. I even kind of liked some of the gameplay elements in that game, but...
Well, but compared to the new Hitman, compared to this version... I do hate that they named it Hitman. That's like my one real complaint with that game is because... much like Prey and Doom and all these other games that are remakes of older games that have the same stupid name. Ugh.
I'm kind of two minds of this. On the one hand, it feels like Square Enix has for a while not had any idea how the market is supposed to work. Where Tomb Raider 2013, another game that was just named the name of the series, there was a thing that came out about that was the game sold pretty well in comparison to its contemporaries, but Square Enix was we lost a bunch of money on this. This didn't sell nearly as well as we thought it would and wanted it to. And that kind of struck me as are you just setting the bar way too fucking high? But then on the other hand, it could be a situation of this is kind of the reality of what AAA game budgets are becoming, where even a really good showing from a game isn't enough to make up the money anymore. And are we seeing sort of the beginning of some sort of collapse of the AAA space in terms of budgets?
I don't know if it's a collapse. I do think that you're going to see fewer and fewer games that are allowed to be released at the budget that games used to be released at. You're going to have a few select titles that are able to go to the $75-100 million mark and stay there comfortably. Your Call of Duties, your Grand Theft Autos, your maybe Battlefields if the wind favors the series. But you're not really going to be able to do that with like Mirror's Edge is a good example, I think. We're doing that now. Mirror's Edge Catalyst probably was a bigger game than it needed to be. I do not think the next
definitely.
Mirror's Edge will be a giant, sprawling open world that has celebrity voice actors and all. I think they will pare it back if they revisit it at all. Until it proves that it has that audience. Because otherwise, it's too big of a risk. I mean, just so much money.
I mean, and this could be good in terms of maybe they will stop budgeting some of these games as AAA games and bring back the AA and A and B kind of game tier, which have always sort of still existed, but as far as big companies goes, it doesn't tend to everybody just kind of wants to make will this be the next Assassin's Creed? Will this be the next Call of Duty big hit?
Yeah. I think that's something you're pretty likely to see.
There's also a rumor, and I haven't been able to find a lot on this, but a German website reported from reliable circles or something along those lines, sources they were not willing to name specifically, that IO Interactive may keep the Hitman rights as a part of this deal, this parting ways, which is interesting and highly uncharacteristic of a AAA publisher to let a company like a development company just take the rights to one of their games. But I haven't seen any kind of confirmation for this, so right now this is just a rumor, but could be cool if true, although you still run into the problem of, like, well, who's paying IO Interactive's check? You know, like, they can't make more Hitman without money. So that's unfortunate, but we'll see what happens there. That's about all the news we have this week. So let's get into the video game discussions here. Earlier there, I alluded to the fact that we were going to talk about Prey, which is sort of the hot-button video game right now. We've all finished it now, I believe.
So,
before
spoilers?
we jump into it, that's my first question. Are we gonna like fucking spoil the shit out of this? Because I'm prepared to do that.
I don't know. How do you guys feel about spoilers?
Should we start with no spoilers and move into spoilers at some point?
Yeah, let's start with
Let's
no
try
spoilers,
that.
and then we'll kind of we'll get into.
And then my next question is just generally, how did you all like it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? That's what I want to know before we get into the nitty-gritty of why you shouldn't like it.
I'm trying to figure out really how I feel about this.
That's kind of where I am.
Like, it starts really, really strong and ends really, really weak and has some really cool ideas but can't really capitalize on any of them. And the end result is a game that I enjoyed playing a lot early on, had some cool fun with in the middle, and the last 5-ish hours were a nightmare slog, and I really got angry at the game, especially at the end, but we're not getting there yet.
Yeah, the last 5 hours were suffering because you wanted to see what the end was.
Yes.
Which is...
And then you got there.
Yeah,
then you got there.
Then you got there.
That was the joke.
Yeah. You almost missed the past 5 hours, like you would almost rather go back to that than see the ending. Yeah, I generally agree. I thought it was a really, really lovely concept. I loved how it seemed like the right size as far as like scope of how many people were around and you know who you're interacting with and how you're interacting with people. It didn't have the sort of BioShock problem. And the size of the environments. It didn't have the sort of BioShock problem where everything seemed either too big or too small, and the amount of characters that you run into were restricted to, like, this character is a boss or going to be a boss. There was more to this world that made it feel alive than any other game in its sort of genre, you know, the BioShock and the System Shock sort of grouping. So I really loved the environment. And the gameplay was fun until it wasn't anymore. I think it just didn't evolve past a certain point.
It's interesting you say that. I feel like the game is really, really held up, even in the crappier parts towards the end. The game holds up, if anything, because of its level design. It has some phenomenal level design, and I don't mean they're cool-looking levels, although some of them are cool-looking. I mean, the level design really does embrace the idea that there are multiple ways to solve any problem and get through pretty much any situation. There are all sorts of different alternate routes. There are ways to use the guns and the power-ups to get different things and go to different places. The real problem becomes towards the end of the game. Once you have full reign of the space station, you've already been through every area and you know your path through them that matches your power set. It's not like Dishonored, which really encourages sort of an emergent play where systems bounce off one another. This is more of there's 30 different ways to skin this cat, and you get to pick whichever one you want. But once you've picked, you kind of just keep skinning the cat that way. Like, you don't suddenly change it up. You have to force yourself to find fun later in the game.
I want to get into what it's like to play the game later on, but I think one of the things I admired most about what you were saying there and what the game does is the fact that I never felt gypped that I didn't have this certain power. Like in Fallout, I always hated coming to a computer console that I couldn't hack, because there was something in there, it would open some door with some, like, thing in there that I really wanted, like a unique weapon or something. And I always felt cheated, or like there would be certain ways, like you just couldn't access this content unless if you built your character the certain way. And sure, that added replayability, but in most of the time I was like, I'm going to play this, and then next time I come back to this game, it'll be so much further down the road, I'll probably play in the same manner. So I always kind of felt gypped, and I always felt like I was forced to get all of the hacking levels and all of the lockpicking levels. And in Prey, I never felt like that. There's only like a couple times where you can't access something unless you have the specific power. Almost always there's a workaround. The one example I'm thinking of is a lot of the leverage 3 stuff. You can't get into those rooms unless if you have leverage 3, but that's fine because I got leverage 3 pretty quickly.
You can just throw a fucking recycler charge at them and eat
or any explosive. Like I just found explosive barrels and threw explosive barrels at the floor and shot those. That'll move the things out of the way.
And that's what I love. I never discovered that, but the fact that there's that possibility, and there's a lot of those clever solutions to problems. It didn't feel like the game tried to force you to do what it wanted you to do, which was nice.
My favorite examples are the rooms that are sort of like locked, but there's an open window, but you can't physically fit through the window, because inevitably, like off the top of my head, you can either fire a foam dart and have it ricochet off the wall and hit the button so that it opens the door, or if you have mimic powers, you can turn into like a cup and then roll like you're playing everything through the thing as a cup and then turn back into a human on the other side, or you can if you have the telekinesis power, simply use that to pull whatever good stuff in there you want to you without having to go into the room at all. Like, there's so many ways to just solve a random locked closet, and then you blow that up to an entire level. It's really, really cool. I do think the game plays pretty well.
Yeah, I did feel like that particular locked closet that you're talking about in Psychotronics was literally the only time that I used the fucking bolt caster, though, so...
I scrapped mine. I scrapped mine immediately. I didn't have enough inventory space. I was playing on hard, and every little slot I could get was useful to me. So
I feel like the caster is only useful for specific types of playthroughs. There are other places where it can open doors for you. There's one in, I think, the Shuttle Bay and a couple other places. So there are places that can open doors for you, but I feel like it exists just to give you that reach for characters that are like going all human and no Typhon powers and or maybe even pure human, no upgrades.
Yeah, Glitch and I actually both did all human, no Typhon powers.
Oh wow. Interesting.
See, and that rolls into something I wanted to get into, in that I liked that the story influenced the way I played. It made me feel like what I was doing and what the choices I was making for gameplay mattered for also the story, and vice versa.
Did it?
I thought that was interesting. And it didn't end up it didn't end up being that way, but it felt that way to me.
Well, what Josh said, he got yelled at for using Typhon powers, even though he never.
Yeah, that was a bit where I was like, "Is this a bug?"
If you don't do anything like that, and then at some point in the game, I'm not really sure how this happens, but you can't replicate neuromods anymore. And if you go up to do the quest to fix that, for whatever reason, it says that you used.
Is that how you trigger the first nightmare?
Yeah.
So
supposedly, I triggered nightmares way before that. I don't understand. It was such a weird bug for me.
Oh, so that only played... Okay, so that's the first time I triggered a nightmare, so that sounds like a weird fucking bug. No, I did that pretty quickly.
Maybe it's on hard you get nightmares more.
I saw nightmares after that, but I didn't see any nightmares until I did that, and January popped on the radio. So basically, backing this up, so for people who are not sure what we're talking about, the sort of hook that they give you to, like, do you want to get Typhon powers or not? And Typhon powers are like the plasmids. They're the, like, I can set things on fire with my mind now. In January, the robot companion AIM like pops on the radio when Alex tells you to use those, and is like, hey, you might corrupt yourself doing this, and like this is the reason why everything's fucked up to begin with. And like the more Typhon stuff you have, the more like the more hostile the station will become to you. And, you know, turrets are gonna like freak out and start shooting you and stuff like that. Maybe you shouldn't do that.
Which in hard mode you absolutely don't want. You don't want turrets to shoot at you. Turrets are your fucking bread and butter, man.
So if you don't do that, like normally there's supposed to be these things called nightmares that pop up periodically and hunt you through the levels as like a sort of like, oh, the Typhon ecosystem is getting really serious about you and wants to kill you a lot. So it's created this weird, crazy eldritch thing to come after you and kill you. And the first time that triggered for me, which may apparently just be part of this quest, I guess, like January popped on the radio and said, like, this is what you get for using Typhon mods, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I didn't do that.
Did you reload and like stop doing that? Because I went back and was like, I didn't want to risk that. I don't know if I got the achievement for never doing it. I don't think I did because of that. But
for what?
For not using any Typhon abilities.
Yeah, I mean, I already had a pretty decent build at that point that was able to handle stuff in normal mode, so like I didn't feel the need to dump the thing, but I was very like concerned for a while that like did my no Typhon mod playthrough get corrupted somehow. But no, I got to the end of the game and like got the mention that like, oh yeah, you didn't install any
they
Typhon
said
mods.
that, but I didn't get the achievement. You get an achievement for doing it. I could have sworn I never got that. So
is there? I don't know.
Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But I want to get on to the story at some point. But I had another note about gameplay that I wanted to talk about. So I don't know what it was like for you guys in normal. It sounds very different from what I'm picking up from this conversation. But in hard mode, the game gets even more tedious. And again, correct me if I'm wrong here. It might have been just as tedious for the same reasons. But in hard mode, every time you go back to a room, like a section, like a different area of the place, there's a lot of new enemies, like a lot of the hardest enemies, the telepaths, the nightmares, etc. And I don't know. That killed it for me. That's what really made the
that
game
happens in normal mode, like as you progress through story beats.
Yeah, it's not every time you go in there.
In hard, it was not. It was literally like about the third, like after I've gone through like the third section or so, I was like, oh, I want to go back and do this side quest that I didn't get to do at the time because I was just kind of trying to play through for the story a little bit more and just kind of try to get through things. And I went back and I couldn't. Like I could either run through it, which at the time I didn't want to do, or I could fight and lose all my ammo and all my health packs. And in hard, I couldn't risk that, so I had to turn around. I
think that is a point when it repopulates old levels. It was like after the third area.
Yeah.
So that was really
probably just a story frustrating because like in the story, the enemies were less challenging than the ones that were respawning. But the frustrating thing to me about that is up until that point, you wouldn't find enemies in rooms that were sealed. Like I didn't find any enemies that were in a place that nobody had been to. And I liked that. I really liked that about the game, and it made it feel like I was making a difference, and that like what I was working towards meant something. And then I ran into that, and I was like, now none of this matters. I can't go back and do the side quests that I want to do because now that's kind of sealed off by the challenge. And it really frustrated me because there were some things I wanted to do that I never got to do because it would have just taken me 3 more hours to do a small side quest because I would have had to kill everything, find more components, melt it down, make more ammo and health packs, etc., etc. Which is where the gameplay failed for me.
We're talking about crafting. What was the resource you guys were constrained by?
Metal.
Mineral.
For sure.
See,
100%
that's
mineral.
Weird. Because it is the most used most used resource, and it is not uncommon, but
it's hard to find.
I finished the game with like 200 exotic, and I had like, because I never crafted any neuromods.
Yeah,
and
I thought exotic
like
was going to be the big problem
a ton
because
of neuromods, and those still eat a bunch of metal.
There's even a fucking there is a skill that you can get that makes it so you can get better exotic resources from like dead typhons. I got that, and that turned out to not be a limiting factor as much as I was expecting.
Totally worthless.
Yeah.
And it was 100% because I was just like pumping neuromods out all the time. But the upside is in normal mode, I didn't feel like I needed to craft ammo all that much, so the other stuff that would have used that mineral was not a big deal.
Yeah, that was not the case in hard. You use a lot of your crafting materials for ammo, especially for the pistol, the 9mm or whatever that is, the science pistol. Amazing weapon.
Nope, shotgun all the way.
See, you might think that, being in hard, at least this is what I found. I'm not like a super fucking amazing gamer or whatever, so, probably somebody could do this better than me, but in hard mode I found that the shotgun just didn't do as much damage because it wouldn't consistently land as well, even though I upgraded them both.
You guys were doing all human runs, because what I would do is I would either shock or psycho shock them, and then their powers are useless, and I could just walk up and slam them in the face with a shotgun. So
yeah, see, I couldn't
really
even get close to enemies. I had to stay far away.
The all-human run does give you one power, though, if you choose to spec into it. And it's actually a really, really good power.
Combat focus, right?
Yeah, combat focus at full, like, maxed out combat focus was like 20 seconds of everything is basically not moving at all, and you can move at normal speed, and if you want to hit stuff with a wrench, you don't use any stamina at all, and you can just
Seriously?
fucking
I never
fuck everything
picked that up. Jesus.
Yeah.
Did that eat psi?
Yeah, it was like 40 psi a thing, but since I wasn't using any other powers, I just had like 30 psi hypos by the mid-game.
Did you guys do the side quests to make all the water psi energy?
No.
That was so useful. I highly recommend anybody playing this game do the water quest, because it makes every water fountain and drink fountain and whatever in the game give you psi energy.
I was wondering about those.
Yeah.
I was like, you can go and turn them on, but they never did anything for me. So I'm like,
they heal you for
like a
1
weird
HP.
Functionality. Oh,
you get 1
I'm
health.
not going to stick around for that. I got the medkit ability that made my medkits give me like 100 health every time, and I was like, this is good enough.
Well, if you do the quest, you get 1 health and then like 40 psi. So every time you tap it. So it's not just 40 psi per water fountain, it's 40 psi per time you tap the water fountain. So you could just stand next to a water fountain and refill it every single time.
But yeah, the gameplay was fun for a while, and I think it was augmented by the fact that I felt like the story ran into the gameplay and the gameplay into the story, which kind of, I think, brings us to the story, which was more of a blow to me than I think the gameplay ever was.
They both kind of nose dove together for me, because with the arrival of Doll and the bots...
Doll was a huge problem. I was talking to Josh
so
after finishing it.
Do we gonna put up our spoiler disclaimer now? We're going all the way in?
Yeah,
I think now is
you
the
can't
time.
really talk about the story without spoilers. So I think, yeah. Can we put up like a timestamp for when this is over?
I'll take
done?
care of that.
Okay.
So
put up
people listening, you can jump to that point.
Yeah, it'll be up on the screen.
It'll
be a picture of Josh's face.
No, there will not be a picture of my face.
Annotate it. Oh right, I forgot.
Not be an annotated picture of my face. It's not happening.
All right, everybody, click on the annotated picture of Josh's face.
No.
You heard it here, folks.
Don't click on that.
Click on that.
It's very sensitive.
The story. Doll showing up was... to me, it felt like they did a play test, and whoever was like, oh, that was really fun, and the sort of corporate side of it was, that was only 15 hours. You need to make this 5 hours longer at least. And you're like, well, okay, I guess we'll add in Space Marines?
No, because the shuttle bay is the first time you really interact with Doll. So, like, there's an entire area dedicated to him, so it couldn't have been, like, a real afterthought. That said...
I don't know.
It played like
it felt like you could have done a lot in that shuttle bay that wasn't Doll. And it did play like ass. I don't know how you guys defeated him. I literally hacked open the door he was behind. He looked at me, and I looked at him, because I had the maxed out stealth thing, but I just stood there in the open doorway, let him finish his conversation, and then I zapped him.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. 100% what I did.
While he's fucking looking at me. This intense, like, super rad, like, pumped up Marine guy fucking stands there, looks at me, and then gets tased. It was so anticlimactic.
they oversold the doll fight. I think they were very conscious
They
of
should
not
have made
wanting
it
a
an actual
BioShock.
fight.
Well, no, they didn't because they want choice. That's the whole point. Is the game is judging you on how you handle these situations. So they wanted to see how you would handle this douche bro who's insulting you.
Okay.
And
But here's the deal. Here's what would really be fun. He's shut off the oxygen, right? So your friends are dying, assuming that you did save the cargo bay. So these people that you care about, supposedly, are dying, and he's somewhere else. And he kind of makes this... I'll tell you exactly where I am. I know you're not going to be able to kill me and save your friends. And then so you have to sort of decide...
Oh, they do an ending of Mankind Divided choice...
Right, but like maybe even like he's very confident in that, but there's choices that you could make that could, come out with the outcome where you do everything. I could see that be way more compelling than he's standing behind a door and you can fucking zap him once and he's down. Like it wasn't even an interesting thing.
The problem isn't that you can knock Doll out or kill him or whatever. The problem is everything once you reach, I think, Alex the first time is super janky. All of it feels like it moves too fast, doesn't spend enough time talking about what's going on, just gives you an objective marker and says, go there. And this is after the game takes 8 hours to really unlock all your powers and really get you going. It is a really slow to start game, and it's taking its time. And then when things start going sideways, it goes sideways so fast.
Yeah, it's literally you open up the door and find Alex and talk to him for like 2 minutes, and then suddenly Space Cthulhu shows up, and then suddenly Doll's like, "Hey, I'm taking over the station."
No, or wait, was it first time? It's
no, that's it.
You meet Alex, and then the Space Marines show up, and then you meet Alex again, and Space Cthulhu shows up, and then you have to make your final choice.
Can we get a break?
Wait. I'm confused because I only met Alex once, and then he got knocked unconscious by Space Cthulhu.
But you come up to the Arboretum office and he talks to you.
Okay, that's okay. I thought when you said meet, because I know that there are endings where he ends up in the bridge with you, but I'm not really sure that happens. He got knocked out for me. I don't know about you guys.
But did you just let him
Space
die?
Cthulhu showed up. No, I didn't know how to save him. I put him in his closet and closed the door, and I was like, I hope he's okay.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah, he's like, if he survives that, he's supposed to show up on the bridge if you try to blow it up.
Maybe I forgot to close the door.
Okay, then he died.
Whoops. Sorry.
You're a terrible
it didn't matter
person.
Anyway. It didn't fucking matter anyway.
I'm imagining this like, oh, we're on a space station glitch, and then like you've got a spacesuit and I don't, and oh no, the gravity and atmosphere turned off. And you're like, oh, I gotta put you in a closet, Josh, so you live, and then you just like fly off and forget to close the fucking closet door, and I'm just there like, oh.
Yeah, I was totally fucking spent. The biggest problem with that game is that it ramps up really quickly for the ending, and then it doesn't end. It makes you feel like you're gonna be in this intense fucking thing, and then you're like, nope, you've got like 30, or not 30 more minutes, more like 2 hours of like tedious bullshit to do. And it's even worse on hard. It's way worse on hard because you actually have to methodically hack a turret, upgrade the turret, place the turret in a place where like the laser bots kind of are fucking stupid and can't shoot them.
The pacing is just terrible. It is a badly paced game. It takes way too long to get going, and then once you're there's a little sweet spot there where after 8 hours you have free reign of most of the spaceship and you have a decent power selection, and that's where the game really feels strongest. But the story has yet to really get started, and then the story starts and it's just boom, 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 you're done, and all of the story parts at the end play badly, and it's just this really awkwardly weighted 8 hours of figuring out how to play the game, 3 hours of holy crap, this is really good, and then 5 hours of just action story badness.
Like the story picking up sections.
Okay.
Yeah, and everything like where the story starts to pick up is good, like up through the Mikhaila segments, and then it goes bad. Like the cargo bay stuff is cool, the Mikhaila stuff is cool. Once you reach Alex. Resetting the power is cool, and then...
reaching Alex should have been the end. pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it should have been,
Well,
you go here,
yes.
maybe you find a way to save your friends on the space shuttle that doesn't involve some military dude, and then you're done.
But you could have cut the entire doll segment all together, and the game would have been able to work 100% just fine. Like, make the December escape shuttle the one in the shuttle bay, and make it so that, like, oh, it's Alex's personal shuttle and it's got a special code and whatever, and that ties December into the game in a way that, like, oh, December was there and you thought they were going to be a big deal, and then they die, and they're not mentioned ever again. And you don't have to deal with Doll, and you still have a fucking shuttle, and just make it so, like, Sarah or someone can pilot, or you can pilot it, or whatever. You got to get a neuromod that makes you a pilot if you didn't save someone who could pilot it. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then,
that would be
like,
great.
that you could do that and just cut the entire Doll segment altogether. Like, the only thing that would be missing is that, like, moral choice of, do you want to make it so the people in the cargo bay don't die?
Yeah, but I mean, like, what does that really add? That didn't add anything to the game to
Yeah,
me,
it didn't
because I
at
knew
all.
I was going to save them, and I saved them so fucking easily. Even on hard,
Yeah,
it
and
was
you
literally,
already
I
saved
ran over to
them
the
once.
console, hid behind a fucking box until the robots went away, and then fixed the problem. And then I was like, well, that was easy. That took 30 seconds.
I think I told Josh this last night, but it feels like it's got the inverse of Dishonored's problem with moral choices, where Dishonored really, really wants you to go lethal, and everything fun is lethal, and the game directs you that way, but then that's the bad ending. In Prey, it really pushes you, like, effortlessly towards the good ending, because it's so easy to just not kill people. It's so easy to save people. It is very easy to end up the hero, even if you're not playing intending to do that. You just like, oh, there's some guys here, blam blam, I shot the bad guys, oh, I saved the good guys, okay, done.
Even, like, obvious ways they could have made it so, like, oh, you have to get your hands stirred a little bit, like that fucking chef quest, where Danielle is like, hey, fucking kill this guy, he's fucking everything up, and I need you to go and murder this dude because he killed my girlfriend.
Is that who killed her girlfriend?
Yeah.
Because, like, I never encountered... I encountered him, and he tried to knock me out, and then I escaped, and I was like, that was effing weird. And then, like, I beat the game, and then the Danielle bot at the end was like, well, he never met me, and he never really solved the problem with the guy that killed my girlfriend, so I have nothing to add to whether we should kill this person. And I was like, oh, okay.
So the way that quest works is if you meet Danielle in the fitness center, like, you can find Danielle alive and she's outside the ship, and you knock on the glass and she's like, hey, what's up, kill this dude, and then you go and find him. Like there is an achievement, and, like, they comment that, like, hey, you didn't kill anyone, and that's cool. I thought this was going to be the quest where, like, oh, if you really want to do it, you maybe have to fucking actually murder someone, and then you do all the legwork to find this guy and set up his tracking thing so you can track him, and you go and get to him, and
he's the game by that point.
He's sitting in an escape pod, and he says, hey, come on, we can get out of here if we get into this escape pod, and if you step into the escape pod, he blows himself up with a recycler charge.
That sounds terribly anticlimactic.
I managed to kill that dude without actually killing that dude. Just by
that guy's
walking into his trap and tanking the recycler charge.
The way he talks makes him sound like he's going to be more interesting of a character. And I think, and we haven't gotten to, like, the end punch of the game, but I think if they had ended the game without that bullshit, he could have been a really interesting character. Like, maybe he's, I almost said Cylon, maybe he's a Typhoid, like you. Like clearly he's having these visions as well.
You're saying it again, Glitch.
Fuck, I'm so bad at
Typhoid.
Typhoid. I don't know their names. I don't give a fuck.
Glitch for the past, like, week has been talking to me about this game and constantly referring to them as Typhoid. So I'm imagining that he's playing this sort of parallel Prey game.
What is the Typhoid?
It's typhoid fever.
Mary?
It's a disease.
God damn it! It's a fucking disease. That's such a lame thing to be stuck in my brain. So say it again. What is it? What is
Typhoid?
Say it again. Embarrass me. Typhoid. Typhoon. Okay, so the Typhoon. He could have been one of the Typhoon.
Typhon.
I know.
God.
I'm fucking around now. So he could have been one of the Typhon. It could have been interesting, but he's not. He's just this like crazy guy. Even though he was able to resist the mind control of the stupid telepath and everything somehow. So that was frustratingly anticlimactic. I didn't even hunt him down because I kind of figured at that point that it wasn't going to be anything interesting. I kind of figured the ending was going to be what it was going to be a little sooner, but then I got there. I was just hoping that it wasn't. Yeah, I think coming back to something that Chris said, though, I don't mind the fact that it kind of pushes you towards the good endings, because really, to me, what was more interesting was less of, like, I hate how games are always like, there's the moral choice and then the immoral choice. I found it more interesting to have the diversity of, there's January, there's December, even though she was anticlimactic. There are these different forces that are asking you to go one way or the other, and you're not 100% sure what you should think, but you have to make a decision. And I thought that was really interesting. You know, like, do I side with Alex and activate the neural wave, or do I blow up the station? Like, those have different connotations to them, and what will happen to the station, and I had to really think about that. And also, like, even earlier in the game, of like, I kind of figure that I'm a Typhon, but I'm also, like, not sure, and I'm kind of siding with the humans because I'm really kind of empathetic with them, but then there are these people mind-fucking me. Like, Alex seems almost evil, but then at other points he doesn't. And I think that was more interesting than a, well, you could kill people or you could not kill people decision. Like, that just seems arbitrary and boring.
Yeah. So, should we talk about the ending finally? Should we finally get to that point?
Yeah,
that
let's finish this up.
Road bump. Yeah, so they picked an ending that is so cliche, it's almost not a cliche anymore. It's all a dream!
It's all a dream, yep. You wake up in a chair, and you are a Typhon.
I mean,
as you can pick that up through the story, by the way. That's what you are. You're not a human. You're actually a Typhon. Or you can infer that. I kind of figured that out when we went to Guts the first time.
Most of my problem is not so much the ending itself, so much as the presentation. So, for those who haven't beat the game but are for some reason listening to this, you beat the game, you basically, a giant Cthulhu Typhon comes and swallows the entire space station, and you can kill it either by blowing up the space station and escaping on a shuttle, or you can activate a neurowave transmitter that basically kills all the brain waves and will kill everything, including the Typhon. And that's sort of the two ways you can solve the problem. And whichever way you choose, basically you get a 20-second cutscene, fade to black. This is after, a 20-hour game, and then credits start rolling over a "It's time to win the mind games" song. Like, literally, those are the lyrics. It's time to win the mind games, because this was a game about, mental neuro stuff. And it's so on the nose and so on point and so obnoxious, and you have to wait for the entirety of the credits to end, and then after that you actually get the real ending. Yeah, you cannot skip them.
And by the way, that 20-second fucking I had this dream bullshit thing was so abrupt cut into the credits that I thought when I turned up my volume on my keyboard that it skipped the cutscene that I was supposed to be seeing. I alt F4'd it, waited for, like, Steam to fucking let me boot it again for 30 minutes. This is at 2:30 in the morning. I'm already fucking pissed about, like, having to stay up this late because the ending drug on. And I relaunched it, and no, it's just, I had this dream, and I'm like, that was it? And Josh tells me that there's more after the credits, which I figured there'd have to be. But even then, it's like, this is total bullshit. And then it gets to the after credits scene.
The after credits scene is you wake up, and it turns out the entire game was not so much a dream so much as a looking glass technology test that you were being witness to that was assessing your mental, not abilities, but your mental preferences,
States.
The personality test.
Yeah.
One of the frustrating things about this is it's bookended, right? Like, the game opens with this stuff. The game opens with you taking a personality test and sort of having them measure. We're giving you neuromods, and we're trying to figure out what it's doing to your personality, and the whole game is what is it doing to your personality? And you can combine that with a lot of the references to Looking Glass and references to 3D worlds inside of 2D planes, and it becomes sort of this meta commentary. We can talk about that later, but the end result is basically the four main humans and Alex all judge your choices and say, well, you did good, but you did let these people die, but you did save these guys, and I think you're okay, or you deserve to die. And then you can either join Alex and try to stop the bad Typhon from taking over the world, or you can reject it and kill everybody.
Not that you actually
That's
get
it.
to see
Literally,
anything.
the options are take Alex's hand, or, and I quote, kill them all.
Yeah, kill them all. Yeah. Stupid. Dumb. It's not how you end a game. What kind of binary... Why would you even have that binary choice? They would make a restraint system in which you could just kill them all? Like, what were they thinking? None of that makes any sense.
I feel like there's a way they could have done this that didn't totally suck, but it would have had to have been like, you get into the shuttle to leave, or you hit the you go into the Typhon thing and inject it with the neurowave transmitter, or whatever the fuck you do in that ending, and then like everything just stops and the world starts to melt away, and it's like, oh, you were in a holodeck or something like that, and then Alex walks in, like the real Alex, like, hey, so that was cool, and does this like reveal in the way that it was done, like in the beginning of the game, where you break out and it's like, oh, you were actually in a fucking simulation the whole time, not this like end game, give a like really short ending and then credits and then like, oh, by the way, you were dreaming.
Well, but that's part of the problem, right? Is like the opening hour of this game shows you, and it was all just a dream thing, and they had explanations for everything. They had explanations for how it looked like you were in a city, how you walked to a helicopter, how the helicopter dropped you off, how the elevator inside the building worked. They had explanations for the entire ruse. And you got an idea of like, oh, this is how they tricked her into thinking she was really back home, but she was really in space. They do not do that here. They just lift the VR helmet off of you and go, well, that was all a dream. Haha. Yeah. And it's just so abrupt. And I really don't know if this was the original planned ending or if this is... The whole game is also really buggy, and again, parts of it feel kind of janky. It feels like the game needed another 6 months. I don't know if this ending is sort of a loose interpretation of the ending they originally intended to go with. It's clear that this is sort of the direction they were heading, because they have all these different characters, and they have voice acting recorded for all the lines, and so... This overall direction of you wake up and they tell you whether you were a good person or bad person was clearly the overall goal, but it's just so slapdash. It is a 20-second video, way too many credits, and then this ridiculous binary choice after the fact that just none of it feels right. None of it works at all. A lot of that could have been helped just by moving the stupid after credits thing to before the credits. I really feel like there's no reason... This is not a Marvel stinger. This is literally the point of the game. The point of the game is buried after the credits, and that's just a dumb move.
If you're like me, like I said, you probably powered through the last couple of hours because you thought it was going to end 5 hours ago, and you just want to get to the fucking ending. And it was a gut punch to have it be so suck-ass. But I like what Josh said about it sort of like melting away. I love the way that they presented that in the beginning, where it's like I escaped the simulation, and then I look back, I'm like, oh, that was a simulation. I mean, unfortunately, Josh fucking spoiled it for me, but it still came as a surprise.
Wait, what?
You spoiled I asked you about the game, and you're like, oh, there are these like neuromods, and they do this. And I'm like, don't tell me anymore. And then you're like, and you're on a space station. I'm like, god damn it.
Oh, okay, you mean the beginning. I thought you meant I spoiled the ending to you, and I was like, what the fuck are you on about?
There's nothing to spoil. But if we're going to go on, like, how we would have liked to end it, I would have much preferred it all mean something. I get the idea of you wanted to have this literary, juxtaposition because you had the dream sequence at the beginning, and now it's actually a dream at the end. And that could have been helped by Josh's suggestion. But it made everything feel meaningless. It would have been really interesting if you never, like, really knew you were a Typhon, and you had options, like you could kill yourself on the station, and there's a lot of implication that if any Typhon material got to Earth, it would fucking kill everything. It would, like, be the end of days. And that would have been really interesting, too. Maybe you choose to live. Maybe you don't think you're a Typhon. Maybe you choose to live and you go back to Earth, and maybe there's a subtle after the credits scene hint that you actually are a Typhon, and now you know the world's fucked. Or maybe there are lots of different possibilities. You could have done the neurowave transmitter. Maybe the neurowave transmitter kills everything on the station, and they can keep working, but we see 20 years later a shit ton of other Typhons come out of space because they know where you are now. Or you stay behind and you explode and it shows your funeral or something, or there's lots of different ways you could end it. They would have been impactful, and you would have known that the people that you went out of your way to save or ignored had an impact, and these people were real people that ended up. We didn't even get to see in the real ending. We didn't even get to see what the real Alex's decisions were, or how the Earth ended up that way. We didn't get to see if Alex actually destroyed the station, because they mentioned that it was all based off of her experiences. So to some degree, Morgan, sorry, Morgan's experiences. So to some degree, the ending, the whole game did happen, just not the way you decided it to happen, because it's based on someone else's experiences. So we don't actually know. But I would have much preferred an ending where things had impact. Nothing had any impact. Nothing that you did mattered, and that makes me feel cheated out of how many hours did I put into this? 40 hours of my life, maybe less. It's probably less. It's 19 hours of my life, and it hooked me. That's the worst part. If it would have sucked from the beginning, I wouldn't care. But it was a great concept. I loved it very much at the start. That's my ideal ending.
Yeah, so, wow, it's rare for a game, I think, to start that strong and end that weak.
Yeah.
Usually I think it's the other way around. Or it's just mediocre all the way through. Lots of game endings suck. Well, any parting thoughts for Prey before we move on?
I'm saving it for the show. We're
on the show right now, Chris. This is all real. This isn't a simulation.
Or is it?
Are you not going to clarify what the show meant there, then?
No, that's it. I'm letting that stand.
All right, okay. So, coming this fall, Chris is going to be doing a live Broadway show about Prey.
About Prey?
It's a one-man play. He plays all the characters.
There's some tasteful full frontal nudity, so don't bring the kids.
Yeah.
But it'll be good. It's soft lighting. Bring the kids anyway. It's fine.
It's art. Kids see naked people in art, right? The Mona Lisa? No, wait. Gibraltar? Fuck.
What?
I don't know art. Okay, I don't know art.
Gibraltar's a place.
Damn it.
Do you want to do some mailbag?
Do we have time?
Yes, I was going to ask about mailbag. That's a good question, though. We did go on about Prey for a long time.
I don't have a problem with making this longer than an hour.
Okay.
Doesn't matter to me.
If we're doing that, can I go get a soda?
Right.
Yeah, we'll take a little break here, and when we come back, we'll do some mailbag. Alright, so we're back from that break, and while we were on that break, we found a stray Rutskarn on the street, so we decided to bring him in and make him record stuff with us.
Yeah. Mailbag question number 1. Dear Chris Franklin, how is Pepsi Fire?
I actually haven't tried it yet. I really should go back downstairs and grab some.
The fuck is Pepsi Fire? Wait.
Yeah, go grab some. We're doing this right now.
We're doing this live? Alright, I'll be right back.
What? Okay, in the meantime, I'll explain. Okay, so Chris picked up something called Pepsi Fire. The premise of this is, what if you took a Pepsi and made it spicy?
Like...
What?
Like Fireball
It's got
whiskey,
cinnamon in it.
Kinda, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, it sounds really fucking terrible, and I can't believe he bought it. I'm gonna have to go buy some myself, probably. But, yeah. So apparently he's made this purchase, and now we're all gonna discover what happens when you add formerly exotic, but now commonplace spices to a beverage, not usually known for being,
I mean,
exciting?
If it's anything like mixing fucking Fireball whiskey with Coke, then it's not going to be a good day, let me tell you. That is not a cocktail that works.
I'm not a fan. I've tried it. Not good.
All right, Chris, let's give us your setup here.
This?
Yeah.
I don't
crack that mother.
All right, I have a lukewarm.
I want to hear the.
All right, here we go. All right, there we go.
Yeah.
It smells like Pepsi. Doesn't smell weird.
Gotta check the smell first.
It's not very
ringing
hot.
Endorsement.
Like.
Oh.
I'm actually kind of disappointed. I was hoping it would be like grotesquely awful.
Yeah, that's actually really disappointing.
It's not good. I won't say that.
Oh, thank God.
It kind of tastes like...
This wasn't a complete waste.
Oh, it makes my nose fizzle, though. I don't know how that works, but it kind of tastes like somebody left a bunch of Red Hots in a Coke or a Pepsi, and you're just drinking it anyway. Also, it's a really grotesque color of, like, light pink, which is not a normal
so they didn't
Pepsi
put
color.
the fucking caramel coloring in this.
No.
So it's spicy Pepsi flavored cherry 7-Up is basically what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I guess. It's not very good. I would not recommend it. It's not even good in like an interesting. Holy crap! This is awful. It's just like red hot flavored Pepsi. It's not hot enough or gross enough.
You're saying that if this was a video game, it would be Prey.
No, because it doesn't start strong and then really crappy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So a video game would probably be like Mankind Divided.
This tastes like one of those things you would make just to mix in the crap. Like, it doesn't taste very good on its own, but maybe with booze in it. I don't know. I don't drink hard liquor, but...
I don't know. Like cinnamony cocktails that also involve Coke are a bad idea. Like, that is not... Those don't go well. Yeah, let's keep this fucking, like, food train, drink train going with an actual mail-in question from Kodiak. Rank fast food burgers from worst to best.
Okay.
Okay, Five Guys.
Worst to
Like,
best?
okay, yeah,
Fuck
well,
you. No
what
way.
are we, like...
Oh, worst to best. No, okay, hang on. All right.
Let's lay down some ground rules
I
as
want
to
to
what
crack at this.
What fast food means here. Like, are we also including stuff like Five Guys and these other like Burger Shack kind of places?
I
that
don't
aren't, like,
need any of your fucking clarification.
fast food?
I got this. Okay.
Okay.
Worst to best. Wendy's spicy crispy chicken sandwich. 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 And Wendy's spicy crispy chicken sandwich.
None of those are burgers.
Glitch, I don't know if you've been paying any attention, but this is America. We just don't call random shit a burger because it's on a bun.
I do.
Are we stealing Waypoint's thing now?
Okay. Can we agree that whatever the bottom is, it's Carl's Jr. / Hardee's?
No.
Yeah, no.
No?
Fight.
What is beneath
Carl's
that?
Jr. is like thoroughly mid to low tier, but it's not the bottom. Yeah. Dairy Queen is
Dairy
probably...
Queen.
Okay.
White Castle, pretty bad.
Oh boy.
The fuck
I'm
is
so glad
White
we have to
Castle?
moderate a comment thread here.
Wait, you don't know what White Castle
Do
is?
you not know White Castle?
There was a movie about it.
I don't watch movies, apparently.
So it's
I know White Castle is like a frozen slider thing that you can buy in the fucking store, but
there's a fast food restaurant that it's like, oh my god, are you like, what is up with these California Pizza Kitchen frozen pizzas? And this Reese's peanut butter, like, did they make a candy based on it?
Rutskarn is saying, Josh, that yes, that's the same thing. It's basically a restaurant that has nothing that sells those sliders. That is their burger.
Right. Okay. That doesn't
a
sound very
non-frozen
good.
version. It's not. It really isn't.
Like the sliders that I had that were frozen were not good, so I'm assuming that not freezing them does not significantly improve them.
America has such a paucity of living history that if something has survived to the modern day, it is classic regardless of its quality. White Castle is an example of this, a shining example of it was old-timey and important in the early days of our metropolitan centers, and it's still around, so therefore it's good.
So, I might get some flack for this, but part of this is because I don't eat the big burgers. I eat, like, just a double cheeseburger. I don't go for, like, the Big Macs or the Whoppers. But I would place Burger King beneath McDonald's.
Big Mac is not big, but
That's
I don't know. I'm torn on this, because the Whopper is a great burger, but like McDonald's is actually really good at making burgers, and sort of like everybody kind of makes fun of McDonald's for being the lowest common denominator, but they're actually like decent.
Recently, they've been making their taste-crafted burgers, and what that actually translates to is they take a couple ingredients that are reasonably fresh and even somewhat like exciting, or it's like, oh, this is like Maple Dijon, or it's like Pico de Gallo for some goddamn reason. And then they put them on a burger that ends up not being completely grotesque. And in fact, I'd say, it's not a good hamburger, but it's a hamburger that is appealing and satisfying and about right for their price point.
Like, briefly, can we just restrict this to the big three: Wendy's, Burger King, and McDonald's, and can we kind of nail down
briefly
a ranking for those, which I think is Wendy's
has got to be the top. What?
I don't like Wendy's burgers.
They are delicious
I don't eat
greaseball
Wendy's that
burgers.
often,
I love it.
I'm with
that's
Chris
true.
on this one. Wendy's Spicy Crispy Chicken Sandwich is the greatest burger.
It's not. That's not a burger.
Okay, no, this is not. Chicken sandwiches are a different thing entirely.
Don't take this away from me. This is all I have to contribute to the conversation. Do you think I go out to fast food to get burgers? I get Spicy Crispy Chicken Sandwiches.
About chicken sandwiches, Wendy's is not even like the top 10 restaurants for chicken sandwiches.
I went there tonight and it was awful.
If we're talking chicken sandwiches, then Burger King wins.
No.
Yes, absolutely.
You guys are never going to agree
I'm
with
going to
it.
be so bold as to say the best chicken sandwich probably belongs to a restaurant that makes chicken sandwiches.
Like Chick-fil-A would be better than Burger
and not
King.
grudgingly.
Chick-fil-A has some
I don't
great
have any Chick-fil-A's
sandwiches.
here that are within a reasonable distance, so...
I don't want to give any...
The secret ingredient is hatred.
I don't want to give any fuel to Glitch, but Wendy's does have a better chicken sandwich than Burger King.
Woohoo!
Bojangles has decent chicken sandwiches compared
Bojangles
to...
has good chicken.
Okay, but Bojangles hamburgers are actually fucking terrible.
Do they have hamburgers?
They did at some point. I'm almost certain.
Okay, Arby's. Arby's has a decent chicken sandwich. Their chicken bacon Swiss.
Yeah, okay.
I tuned out.
We're getting
Did anybody
distracted.
mention In-N-Out? Because I think In-N-Out sucks, and you can be angry at me.
Okay,
You can be angry at me, Internet.
Fuck right off
Is In-N-Out
and
high
sit in
tier?
a corner until we're finished with this civilized
put-
conversation for
I would
adults.
put In-N-Out
Yes.
high tier. Yeah, I'd say that's near
no,
the top.
fuck In-N-Out.
So
As far as fast food.
It's only
They don't
one of
have
the best
mayonnaise.
hamburgers in the entire world,
So-
yes.
my problem is there are no In-N-Outs anywhere near here, so I have no way of judging where this falls.
Let me actually explain In-N-Out, because it's reasonably important. So In-N-Out is a mostly West Coast, I think just about entirely California phenomenon.
Yeah,
And
we've got
how it
some
works
here,
is
but
they've got 10 discrete ingredients in the entire restaurant, and they make 5 things, and they make them fresh, and they make them very quick, and they're very basic and elementary. It's, in fact, not elementary, elemental. It's like, you look at your hamburger, it's like, this is so stripped down, and it's not fancy. It's clearly a fast food hamburger. You never mistake this for something above its pedigree. But it's just about the best iteration of this simple thing that you can manage. It tastes completely fresh. They toast the buns perfectly. The meat is cooked perfectly. It comes together. very, very well. And that is why In-N-Out is the second best fast food hamburger. They will be at just below the top of the list, and the top of the list, unfortunately, I have to say this is Five Guys.
I would agree with that.
I unfortunately don't have any Five Guys around, so I've never actually had any Five Guys burgers.
I don't eat fast food burgers, like ever.
Okay.
I make my own. That's why I haven't really been honestly contributing to this, other than the fact that fucking In-N-Out doesn't have mayonnaise. But I will say Five Guys is pretty damn good. It's the only one I've been to.
1 second.
Is he gonna drive to my house and beat my head in for talking down
I'm
about In-N-Out?
wondering about this.
No, just guys, I don't want to get a sidetrack too long. If you're curious about Five Guys and why it's ranked so highly, just Google Five Guys video review, and a man will express it much more passionately and eloquently than I ever could.
Oh.
This is a guy in a car eating a Five Guys hamburger, and every time I see it, it just fills me with
This is the guy in the
ravenous hunger.
No, I was hoping it was, but it's not.
No, no, that's the Pengest Munch. No, Five Guys Burgers and Fries review is just some dude just who gets Five Guys in a bag and eats it in his car in the parking lot. And it's a religious experience. But anyway.
So
can I just try to put this together?
Well,
I'll try to put this
before we
together.
do that, I got one more thing I got to
Go
bring
ahead.
up, which is like, what about the places that do burgers that have no business actually doing burgers? Like, what about the Del
Fuck
Taco
'em.
burger? I've never had it.
Has anyone in world history ever ordered the Del Taco hamburger?
Like, it's on the menu. I'm not convinced that they actually ever make those, though. If you asked them to make you a Del Taco burger, could they do it?
All right, here's a data point. I saw someone eating one with every sign of enjoyment once in my many years of going to Del Taco.
So it's better than Carl's Jr.
Here's
then.
another data point. Nobody gives a shit. Yeah. All right, here's my ranking. Let's check this out here.
From worst to best.
We got Dairy Queen, Carl's Jr. / Hardee's, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's.
Wait, I thought McDonald's was higher than Burger King on that.
McDonald's, Burger King. Let's call it a tie, because Burger King has some good hamburgers.
Sure.
You know what? Okay, sure. Burger King, McDonald's. Let's say Jack in the Box actually comes after
I would
McDonald's.
put Jack
Everybody
in the
fine
Box
with
Jack in the Box sucks.
that high. I would put Jack in the Box down with
Okay,
like Carl's
fuck it.
Jr.
I've only ever had Jack in the Box after
their
the
stuff
hour
is
of 10
like-
o'clock. So
Their buns are always dry. Their stuff is all
I once
bland.
waited for 45 minutes for my burger at Jack in the Box.
You guys don't have a cookout near you, do you? That's a North Carolina
No.
thing.
No.
Oh.
Yeah. No. Yeah, Jack in the Box is... okay, I can see that Jack in the Box is run by actual literal goblins that roam the earth. So we'll
What
we'll
about
put that down below Carl's Jr.
what about A&W? Where does that fit here?
I'm sorry, I don't know enough about A&W.
Yeah,
It's kind of
mid-tier, whatever.
yeah.
We're on Burger King
You
level.
go to
Let's just leave it
A&W
off.
for root beer floats, and that's it.
So let's say Dairy Queen, Jack in the Box, Carl's Jr. / Hardee's, Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, In-N-Out, Five Guys. Can we live with that?
I'm okay with
We
that.
should like there's that makes Wendy's sound like way better than it probably is, because there's a huge
does.
gulf between
There is-
Wendy's and In-N-Out.
Yes, that's clear. It's basically like saying, okay, here's our ranking. Mountain Thunder, Rebel Thunder, Clear Dew, Mountain Cool, and then Mountain Dew and Mountain Dew Code Red.
I'm pretty happy with that ranking. And this is, of course, again, just burgers without any consideration for anything else, because, like, obviously, if we brought fries into the game, that's completely different. And McDonald's like sits up at the
in
top
that case,
as
the winner
the
would be
king,
Five Guys.
the God Emperor, and then maybe In-N-Out and
No, Five Guys actually still has better fries than
no,
McDonald's.
there are no better fries than McDonald's.
Well, that was very edifying and educational. I'm sure this is exactly what all of our largely non-American listeners come here for.
Was that the actual mailbag question, or was that something
that was
you
an
made
actual
up?
mailbag question, legit, real mailbag question. I can take a screenshot of this shit. A guy named Kodyak.
Thank you, Kodyak.
So glad we had this globally interesting conversation here. Tune in next week when I rank the best flavors of Albertsons brand sodas.
Don't say that. They're going to make you do it.
Black Cherry Super Chill, then we sort the rest. How about that?
Are you saying that's the best or the worst?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let's move on to another question.
Damn it.
Dear Spodcast, considering last week's BioWare news, when do you think EA will shut down BioWare Montreal? Love, Christopher. Oh, Christopher's still here. Hi, Christopher.
What was last week's BioShock news?
So this was actually 2 weeks ago now, but
that's what I meant.
BioWare Montreal is being scaled back, and Mass Effect is being at least temporarily put on ice. Nobody's actually gotten fired from the sound of it, but like the Montreal team has been kind of reassigned to other projects and working with other studios. So, like, when will EA shut down BioWare Montreal? I don't know if like that's necessarily a definitive thing that's going to happen soon, but
look, for the past 6 years, the question has been, what remains in BioWare that is worth saving in this gaming climate? And I think that they're discovering the answer is not really enough.
This has been kind of the movement for a while.
My concern more would be for the Montreal dev scene in general. It doesn't sound like the Square Enix side of things is going super great either, with the not doing so good Deus Ex sales.
Well, yeah, but they're off doing stuff with Crystal Dynamics and like Marvel.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that turns out well for them, just because I would hate to see that entire scene collapse. But yeah, I don't think EA will shutter BioWare Montreal. I say that knowing that they shutter studios constantly, so I'm not saying that with any sort of certainty, but there are enough BioWare properties, I think, left to work on that I don't think they're going to just ditch everything. I mean, aren't they rumored to be working on like a KOTOR reboot or something along those lines?
Okay, so that was something that I guess reading into it was something that's been on the back burner for a while and they've been working on, but it's not the new thing that Edmonton is working on. That's something else.
You know, I got an interesting question, which I want to bring up for you guys. I want to see how you feel about this idea. Witcher 3, was that good or bad for BioWare's prospects? Because it should have been good, right? It should have been like, oh, here's a game that brings a new generation of gamers into the idea that, these kinds of third-person, pseudo-open-worldy RPGs are awesome. And they came out so far apart from the other BioWare releases that it's like, oh, people should have been hungry for the next thing like this.
Well,
and BioWare's like the only company doing it.
I mean, it launched 6 months after the mild disaster that was Dragon Age Inquisition, and I think like definitely in the moment, having The Witcher 3 launch 6 months afterwards and just completely annihilate Dragon Age Inquisition on pretty much every front was not a good thing for BioWare. I mean, like, people are still talking about The Witcher 3 constantly. People do not talk about Dragon Age Inquisition anymore. Everyone kind of is happy that that game can exist in the past. Like, they were doing their big, like, expansion story DLC right at the same time that The Witcher 3 came out, and they got no discussion about that. Like, in the long run, I wonder. Like, BioWare's still clearly working on that kind of stuff, and they still maybe have a little bit of that clout of, like, we are the people who make RPGs, but they've definitely lost that sort of king position, I think, over the past couple years. of like since Mass Effect 3, really. Maybe you could even draw that back to like since Dragon Age 2. And that like 1-2 punch of Dragon Age 2, Mass Effect 3, and then Dragon Age Inquisition comes out and it's not that great either. And then The Witcher 3 hits and it's everything that BioWare claims to want to be able to do but hasn't been able to do. And then now Mass Effect Andromeda comes out and it's really just very mediocre. Like that's like 4 in a row there of just not doing that well. I honestly like it. The last couple of BioWare games have felt like they're grasping at straws, trying to find something that hooks people again, and really going in the wrong direction on these things. Like Inquisition was super MMO-y, and as I understand it, Andromeda has a lot of those sort of like very trash side quests that nobody really cares about, and a lot of like running around very bases that don't need to be as big as they are. So I don't know. I don't know how to interpret like The Witcher 3 in isolation from that context of like also all this time BioWare's not really been hitting it at all cylinders. So yeah, I don't think BioWare will shut down, or EA will shut down BioWare Montreal, but like I was kind of surprised Montreal got the game in the first place, because that's not the main BioWare studio. That's not even the secondary BioWare studio, which is Austin, that does The Old Republic. This was the third BioWare studio.
They still do The Old Republic?
Yeah, I mean, that game's still running. They had an expansion come out like 6 months ago.
I can't imagine their player base is very high. Like, maybe peaks at like, what? Maybe 50,000?
I mean, it's free to play, so... And they made it really easy to just do all the story stuff. And I guess like the recent expansions have been way better than the vanilla, like even the vanilla story stuff itself is kind of weird and repetitive and was definitely not designed to be experienced all at once in the way that it is now, because there's a lot of, oh, hey, you went to this planet and did this, and then, oh, hey, you went to this other planet and then did the exact same thing. Yeah, I don't know. BioWare is in a weird place right now, and Mass Effect Andromeda being not even not good, but kind of bad, it definitely was not helpful to them. I think a lot of people have kind of like washed their hands of BioWare and said like, yeah, whatever, I'm done.
They just don't make games that are like undisputably good anymore. Like Coder was in its time a game. I don't know anyone
even like
who
Mass
played
Effect
it and didn't love
Dragon
it.
Age were.
Yeah, I love Mass Effect 2. And I hate to admit it.
I feel like we said everything that we have to say about that. Let's see what else we got. Dear Spoiledcast, Alan Wake just experienced his last weekend being available for digital distribution for the foreseeable future. Alan Wake is not the only game to suffer a similar fate to a human. However, I think it's interesting that it is being removed because of music licenses expiring. Was this a boneheaded mistake on Remedy's part for getting 7-year music licenses? A deviant sales ploy to sell the game 7 years after release for a 90% discount? Or maybe something completely different? Well, obviously, like, this is... Nobody makes a sales ploy to take your game off sale 7 years after it comes out and at a 90% discount. Like that is clearly not what's happening here.
Who wrote the email, Josh? You missed that part.
Oh, this was cheers, Maddie won Monopoly.
I like that name.
I do not believe it was a sales scam, because you're not going to make a ton of money off of a 2-day sale for 90% off for a game that's 7 years old.
Yeah.
Really, what I think it is Remedy are Finnish developers that probably don't have as much money for what even were the songs? There were some decently well-known songs in there, and an in perpetuity license. I asked about this on Twitter, and people responded, and I assume the people that responded know what they're talking about, but they said it could easily be 4 to 10 times as much as what it would cost to just get a limited license. Perpetuity licenses are expensive, apparently. Having never bought music, I don't know. So it was a cost-saving measure. Video games tend to age poorly anyway. I mean,
Yeah,
it was an Xbox 360 and PS3 game, right?
Right, yeah. I would not be surprised if anyone was at the time thinking about, like, okay, what happens 7 years down the line when these licenses expire? Like, who cares with video games, you know?
Well, especially when I mean, it's a little different now, but at the time,
at the time,
kind of
like
ruled the world.
That console drive.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, the PC is just a bonus. No one thought there'd be like a huge PC. Well, obviously there was a huge PC market, but nobody thought it would be like a juggernaut in 2017, and it is. And so it's just kind of I think a weird cultural artifact that 7 years later you have to go, oops, we're not selling this game anymore. But this is not unique to games or Remedy. Other games have run into this issue. Other games have gone off of Steam explicitly for this issue. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there were others fairly recently that went away. I wonder. Now I'm trying to think of what they were. Oh, it was San Andreas. Didn't San Andreas have to get recut or?
Yeah, that's right.
Or lost songs. It was one of the two. Either it went away for a little bit and had to have some songs removed because certain song licenses expired in that game. And I think they just removed some of those radio stations outright. So, yeah, this is not an unprecedented thing to have happen.
And it happens in other mediums, too. Like, if you watch Scrubs on Netflix, most of the songs that play at the end of episode coda stuff are not the songs that played in broadcast.
House, this bothers the crap out of me when I watch House on Netflix. They licensed Massive Attack's
Teardrop.
Teardrop, thank you. They licensed that for the USA only. They did not license that for the rest of the world. So the rest of the world got sort of a weird synth kind of sound-alike song. But because they didn't license it for the whole world, and because Netflix streams the same video to everybody, everybody now, whenever you watch House, gets the generic knockoff song. And it bothers the crap out of me every time I watch House. Daria is kind of an interesting case because it was an MTV show, and I think they just had licenses to play whatever pop songs were popular at the time, whenever. So Daria had tons of pop music when it would air on TV in the 90s. Now that is all gone. They have no rights to any music other than their intro. So it's pretty sad that they just replaced all of that with like crappy MIDI sounds when it used to be like Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys to provide like an ironic pop twist to what is sort of an, anti-pop person. A lot of that subtext is gone, and that makes me sad. But yeah, it happens all the time. And so I don't think it's a scam. Sorry, I talked too much.
Yeah. In perpetuity licenses are definitely something that I wonder if it's just like not even just a money thing, but I wonder if it's really hard to even get that. Like if artists are
it probably is. Yeah.
Very protective of like giving in perpetuity licenses to anyone.
To a video game studio at that.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure movies can get away with it, but, like, movies are budget juggernauts.
The other thing is, they're a Finnish company, and I imagine that makes it even more complicated, because they probably would have to de facto buy a worldwide license, which itself probably ups the cost.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it's an American studio buying an American license for an American published game. It's a Finnish studio, which makes the whole thing, I think, by default global, which is weirder by itself. So...
it's a shame that it happened the way it did, but 7-year run for a video game and having it still be relevant enough that it going off Steam and having a discount sale was a big story is, that's pretty good. It's a shame they never did anything more with the Alan Wake stuff. Like, I think there was potential there, but I'm not even sure what happened to that.
American Nightmare came out, and then they did
great game.
They did Quantum Break. They did the time traveling,
which was such a great game that no one played it.
I can't. I got nothing. I can't refute that. I own an Xbox One and I didn't play it, so I got nothing.
Yeah, I've been. I could go and buy it right now because it's on the Windows Store, and you can get it with the Play Anywhere
but
stuff.
It's
or
UWP
maybe it's not a Play
only,
Anywhere. Right? Yeah, it's UWP. Yeah, Remedy, what happened to you? Do we want to do one more?
Yeah.
We've gone a long time.
Okay, let's go let's knock this one out real fast.
All right.
Okay.
Dear Kufty, what is your favorite recipe that includes alcohol as an ingredient, not counting recipes wherein alcohol is ingested by the chef during prep, mixing, or making? Sincerely, Funkelwinkler. Yes, that's hard to pronounce. Did I pronounce that wrong?
Which is all of your recipes.
Yeah, all recipes involve the chef ingesting alcohol during all steps of preparation. I don't have a recipe that I go to as like the recipe that has booze in it. I don't know if you want to jump in here, Glitch. I'm not sure you have any recipes that kind of fit the bill either.
Not really. I like bourbon chicken.
Yeah, I do.
Not
so
anything fancy.
I was going to mention bourbon chicken because that's a favorite recipe of mine, but it's called bourbon chicken, but the bourbon is it's an accent to the dish. It's weird that it's called bourbon chicken because it's probably 2 tablespoons of bourbon in the marinade and that's it. And bourbon chicken
There's some cakes I like that are made with alcohol. So I guess if I were to really narrow it down, I like to make cakes with alcohol on occasion. And I don't actually make them, though.
What cakes do you make with alcohol?
I see. I knew you were going to ask that, which is why I clarified that I don't actually make them.
Do you want to get your wife in here?
No, she's busy. Making me
bourbon
a cake
chicken
with alcohol.
For people who
actually, go ahead. I have a story after this, or maybe not.
Well, okay. What? Everybody's talking over everyone. What do you want to say, Chris?
Have you watched the latest season of Archer, Glitch?
No.
You should.
I don't think he's watched any season of Archer, actually, which is a point of contention. He watches Bob's Burgers instead.
I can't separate it from Bob's Burgers. Bob from Bob's Burgers should not be doing the thing that Archer's doing. It doesn't work for my brain. He uses the same voice. I don't like it.
Sometimes Glitch reminds me of Cecil. That's all I'll say.
Is that? I hope that's a compliment. Oh no. Oh. Let's see how it is.
Yeah, so people who don't know what bourbon chicken is my favorite guilty pleasure. It is the trashy mall food court recipe. In fact, the only place I can find bourbon chicken is in mall food courts. It's like an Asian chicken recipe that's very sweet and tangy and uses chicken thighs, so it's got that meaty, fatty flavor kind of chicken that you don't get from breasts. And it apparently is the least authentic possible fucking Chinese food recipe because even normal Chinese food takeout places don't do it. And it is basically just
is it really
chicken
Chinese
thighs.
Food, though?
I don't know. I
thought it was more of a Cajun thing.
No, it's definitely not Cajun. No, it's like soy sauce and hoisin sauce. Maybe you're having a different kind of bourbon chicken. I don't know.
Wait, bourbon chicken?
Yeah.
Bourbon chicken is a dish named after Bourbon Street in New Orleans, Louisiana. The dish is commonly found in Cajun-themed Chinese restaurants. Okay, so guys.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
There's an intersection in the United States of Cajun cooking and various kinds of Asian cooking.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Well, okay, so the only place I have ever known to find this is a fucking is in mall food court Asian places. So and I
You're
can
not
find
wrong.
it.
I'm looking in the encyclopedia article. Yeah, it is, soy sauce, brown sugar, ginger, and bourbon whiskey.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And you just marinate the chicken in that. And my recipe includes a bit of hoisin sauce in there, and then you also make a glaze out of basically the same ingredients, and then you griddle those or grill those at a really high heat and baste it with a glaze, and that's it. That is bourbon chicken, and it's delicious. But also, the bourbon is pretty much an afterthought, and I haven't done this, but I wouldn't be surprised if you could make it without bourbon and have it, turn out in such a way that I couldn't tell the difference.
You're clearly not using enough bourbon.
Anyway, Glitch, you had a story.
Yeah, here's my story. Here's how we'll wrap it up. My wife made homemade Pop-Tarts today, so...
Oh, man.
Whoa. They're just as delicious as they sound.
Do they look like properly like Pop-Tarts?
I mean, kind of. She didn't get super artsy with them, so they kind of just look like, okay. She spent like the better part of like 5 or 6 hours making these. It's that long of a process, so I don't even know if we'll ever have them again. But like, I feel like by the time she got to the icing part, she's just like, I'll just slap the shit on here, and I don't care because it's delicious. It's not as good as the picture. I'll try to send you the link to where I got the recipe so other people can see where we got the recipe and maybe try it if they want. It takes a long time to make. A lot of steps. It looked like fucking Greek to me when I was looking at it.
Oh, man. The idea of making your own Pop-Tarts is just fucking... It's like making your own Twinkies or something.
Yeah, it's like the golden formula. You shouldn't have it, but you do.
The Midas touch, where everything that you cook turns into a Pop-Tart.
Ooh, that would be good for a while.
I'm getting the distinct sense that Chris and Rutskarn do not have the same shared cultural memory of Pop-Tarts for breakfast.
It's 2 hours of podcasting. I'm just running out of steam.
We shouldn't have wasted so much time on Prey, and we should have talked more about fucking Pop-Tarts.
Right?
Clearly what our audience wants to hear.
Christ. All right, well, I think that is definitively all we have in us for this podcast. Remember, you can email your mailbag questions to spoiler warning. What the fuck is this? Spoiler warning show at gmail.com. I know my email address, damn it. Spoiler warning show at gmail.com if you want us to answer very relevant questions such as the ones you just heard. And we will catch you the next time we do one of these, assuming we can ever get a fucking regular schedule on this show.
Never.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
Oh man, can I just have you do that voice?
I want to talk about video games. I'm real serious.
Can this be the outro to all of our episodes? You know how you do the end card and just have this be the outro? Click on Josh's face here to subscribe, by the way.
No!